Welcome to Rewatch-and-Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Charmed Season 3, Episode 14, The Good, the Bad, and the Cursed. The episode in a nutshell is just a brief reminder of what happened within this episode. So the episode starts with Victor and Phoebe being at a ghost town and wandering through it, while Victor indicates that he wants to buy the town in order to basically invest in the town, raise it to the ground, and then be able to rebuild. However, as it is land that has been left undeveloped as a ghost town for 128 years, he worries that there may have been something supernatural involved, like literal ghosts, and he doesn't want to buy it if he's not going to be able to, reinvest and build it into something. This is why he brought Phoebe there. Phoebe starts to hear noises, and then two ghostly figures come out of the saloon, and one of those figures is being beaten up and falls through her, which leaves her with his injuries. Then we move on to back at the manor. Piper and Prue are getting the table ready for the rehearsal dinner, and Piper has left 6 spots there so that their mother can have one in spirit. And then Leo orbs in and they greet him, and he basically makes a comment on how, as long as the demon doesn't attack within the next week, he'll be happy because obviously they're getting married in a week. And just as if on cue, Phoebe and Victor returned. Phoebe has a bloody lip that matches Beau's bloody lip when he fell through her. And this is when it is revealed that most likely Phoebe has become psychically linked to Beau through their magic, and it's their magic connecting that has caused her to be receiving his injuries. And of course, Cole then comes in with flowers, basically saying that he's still in love with her. He said he wasn't going to give up. Here he is, not giving up. And this reveals that he is back to all of the family, because at this point, Phoebe was keeping it a secret and hadn't told anybody, and now obviously secret's out. And they discover that time loops are able to not just be caused by a demon, but can also be caused naturally by a great injustice or wrong. And whoever committed that injustice or injustice or wrongdoing will then be cursed into a time loop until it is righted. And that is what is believed to have happened to the town. Prue and Cole then team up to go into the alternate plane or the time loop where the village is existing, or the town is existing, in order to try to right the wrong and save Phoebe. And they'll save Phoebe by saving Beau. So they use Cole's demonic powers to shimmer into the Old West town, where they then basically start to investigate. They steal some clothing to blend in, go to the bar, get some information, learn about how a man named Stutter is taking over the town, and Beau, the person that Phoebe is connected to, is a thorn in Sutter's side, as he is the only one still standing up. Most of the village did, but he isn't, and that he also gets visions in the form of dreams like Phoebe, which is how they ended up connecting through their magic. Isabel, who is Beau's sister, tells that Beau had told her that 2 strangers would be coming to help, and so she leads them out where there are already 3 horses, and they ride to where Beau is holed up in a church. But they are followed by Cal, who is working for Sutter. Anyways, they find Beau in the church. Cole shows his powers. Prue then helps him to remove the bullet. Meanwhile, in reality, or in the present time, Phoebe is getting worse. She's been shot because Beau was shot. And Piper and Leo, who went back to the ghost town, found the evening edition of the newspaper that the half-breed will die at sundown. And they then have Phoebe get a premonition, and this premonition, because they're linked, feeds over to Bo, which then has Bo realize what the curse is and that it originates from his father's people, who his father was a medicine man before he died, and that's where Bo's magic comes from, and also where the curse originates, and it's not Bo dying that sets off the curse, it's the townspeople turning a blind eye to him dying that sets off the curse. So he lets himself be captured when Sutter's men comes to find him, and he's brought into the middle of the town, like the main road, and is basically made an example of in this town square. And while he's being made an example of, Isabel, Prue, and Cole go around basically telling everybody to buck up, fight for their lives, fight for their town. They can do it. And it works. They do end up standing up to Sutter, saving Bo's life. And then Prue goes racing off of after and escaping Sutter to capture him. And while she does that, Cole then goes into the saloon, and basically he formed a grudge when they were in the saloon the first time with one of Sutter's men, and he fights him again. And when his gun runs out of bullets, he then shoots an energy ball at him, which sets him on fire. And that's when Prue walks in to see that he, in fact, is not that great of a person, and he's already lost his battle to be good because he just murdered someone right there. But they head back now that the town is saved and the sun sets, and it is assumed that the town will continue to live out their lives now going forward on an alternate timeline in a parallel plane, as the curse had broken. And then they return home. Phoebe has come to terms with her feelings for Cole, and therefore says that they are, like, basically invites him to stay for the rehearsal dinner, accepting that he's there, even though Prue tells him like he should leave. It's probably best if he does. And she doesn't reveal that he has already slipped into his old ways to anyone, most likely because it is the rehearsal dinner, but obviously she knows. And Victor also comes to terms with the fact that Leo is a white lighter, which he at first has a problem with because of Patty's affair with her white lighter. And basically, happy ending, everybody ends up where they're supposed to, and the rehearsal dinner takes place. Now that we've been reminded about what happened in the episode, it's time to rank the episode. As always, we will rank on two ranking lists. The mostly objective ranking list, which uses set values, and then the personal ranking list after that, which uses my opinion. So I've highlighted the mostly objective rank values I felt applied to this episode. And first we have our single episode supporting character introductions, which are Bo Lightfeather, Isabel Lightfeather, and then Sutter, the main villain. And they're each worth 1 point. We then have our multi-season supporting character development, which is that Victor is apparently wealthy enough that he could buy a whole town. He brought Phoebe there to get the read on. And then we find out that he has a grudge against Whitelighters because even though Patty and Sam got together after they had separated, he believes that Sam was putting the moves on Patty even while they were together, and is the reason that they never had an opportunity to get back together. And he warns Leo, whom he thinks is a handyman, that he needs to beware of Whitelighters because they have a habit of falling for their charges, and, you know, they'll steal his wife. And then Leo has to orb away because he is being called by the sisters while he and Victor are in the diner. And this, of course, is how Victor finds out that Leo is, in fact, the girl's whitelighter. So doesn't need to worry about his wife being stolen by a whitelighter, as he is one. But of course, Victor then comes back angry. He's like yelling, but then that's when Leo and Piper orb away to go to the village. And by the end of the episode, Victor has accepted that Leo is a whitelighter and that he and Piper are going to get married. So all's well that ends well. But that is worth 3 points. We then have the multi-season main character development, which is that we learned that Phoebe's powers existing on a more psychic level allowed her to be psychically linked to Bo, who has similar powers to her. And this is what leads to her getting the injuries that Bo sustains, as anything that happens to Bo happens to her. And because they are not her wounds, Leo isn't able to heal them. He would only be able to heal Bo, not her, which is also interesting. And then, of course, we have Prue and Cole. We learn that Cole is able to shimmer into other planes, and that's how he's been evading getting caught. And I think, did I put him as a multi-season main character or supporting? I think I made him multi-season main, so I'm counting that under the same, and that's worth 4 points. We then have the world building, which is where we learn that time loops are able to be caused by a great injustice, and that it will trap the person who did the injustice and anyone involved in it in a curse, in a time loop, until that wrong is righted. And then we learn that once the curse breaks, they will then continue to live out that timeline on a different plane of existence, and that there are multiple parallel planes of existence. We've learned other planes in past episodes, but this is the first time where we have like a parallel plane to ours caused by like a time discrepancy. And that was worth 4 points. Then we have our main relationship development, which of course is Piper and Leo's rehearsal dinner taking place, as well as Phoebe inviting Cole to stay, having decided that she is willing to give him a chance, as when she is wounded, she trusts, and they question whether they can trust Cole because he's a demon. She says that they can trust him because he loves her as much as she loves him, admitting A, that she loves him, and then at the end, inviting him to stay indicates she is willing now to once again give their relationship a bit of a try. But then we have the -1 point for character regression, which of course is that Cole within the time loop does slip up and he does end up killing a man using his demonic powers, and he had stated to them previously that he was trying to be good, that his human half was going to repress his demon half, and he was not going to use any of his lethal demon powers because that would increase the chances of his human half losing the fight. But then in the same episode he says that in, by the end he does end up slipping already and kills the guy in the time loop with his lethal demonic powers. Either way, that brings us to a total of 17. And as the maximum score is 10, that makes this a 10 out of 10 episode. So for our season 3 ranking so far in our mostly objective ranking, we have in first place The Honeymoon's Over, Magic Hour, Sleuthing with the Enemy. This episode, The Good, the Bad, and the Cursed, is in fourth place. It's in fourth because when more than one episode has the same score on a mostly objective ranking, it's ranked in episode order. Then in fifth, All Hallows Eve, Coyote Piper, Blinded by the White Lighter, Once Upon a Time, We All Scream for Ice Cream, Power Outage, Bride and Gloom, Wrestling with Demons, Sight Unseen, and then in 14th, Primrose Empath. Now, it's my personal opinion on the episode. Not the biggest fan, especially in comparison to some of the really good episodes in the season. This one really didn't stand out for me. First off, I'm not really big on the Western theming. I don't like dusty places. I have a thing about dirt. I don't really enjoy that. There was a lot of wind, a lot of dust blowing in the wind. Everything kind of looked a little dirty, and it's just not one of my favorite themes. You know, they've done past episodes in the past, and they will do other episodes that take place in the past in the future, and just setting-wise, wasn't my favorite. Then, of course, there's the, Phoebe getting Bo's wounds. And of course, if they can't save Bo, then that will mean that when he gets a fatal wound, Phoebe will also pass on, and that is what they are trying to prevent. And I understand why they had to link the wounds, as that ups the stake as a plot device, so that they have to then go into the time loop to save Bo and to try to save Phoebe, and otherwise they wouldn't have necessarily had the motivation to do so. So I get it as a plot device and why it works. But I wasn't really a fond of, Phoebe having to suffer all of the wounds that Bo got when she's not even in the situation, like she's in a completely different time period, especially given the grievous nature of his wounds. Like, I mean, there's a split lip, bruised ribs, she got shot, then she got whipped. Like, it was a lot. And I was like, I don't really like that she has to go through this. Plus, I mean, she's a good actress, because, she faked the pain really well. But at the same time, I'm like, how embarrassing would that have been to have to like pretend you're being whipped when there's like nobody there doing it and you're just in like a flowery living room. I don't know. I wasn't really fond of that part or that aspect of it, just personally. But again, I understand for plot reasons why it was in there. And then I found that I've pointed out before how I felt like she jumped the gun on judging Cole, how she didn't really give him a chance to prove he could be good. She was just basically discounting him before he could even try, and that was my critique on the last episode. Well, now he's tried and he's failed, and now is when she chooses to give him a chance. Fair enough, she doesn't know he failed to be good, but Prue does, and Prue keeps her mouth shut, and I feel like that's kind of information Phoebe needed, because now Phoebe's kind of on Cole's side again, thinks he's good, thinks he's saved her. That's why she's now willing to give him a chance. And Prue's just kind of standing aside, knowing that he has slipped up already after just making the declaration, and then doesn't say anything. And I'm like, say something. It's your duty as a sister to watch out for your baby sister and let her know that her boyfriend is actually evil. Or maybe not as good as he wants to think he is, because he slipped up. I also found that I think they were going for meaningful, like this town of people who turn the other way, learn how to find their feet, stand up, and save the day, stand up for themselves, their town, save Bo. And I know that was meant to be meaningful, but honestly, I felt like it was really cringy sappy. I'm not really a sappy person, so sometimes when things are a little bit too sappy, I find them uncomfortable to watch. And so I wasn't overly fond of that. I mean, I did think it was sweet and nice, but at the same time, a little bit too sweet, a little bit too nice, a little bit too sappy. Now on to some of the comedy. I found that they really enjoyed their slow-mo shots in this episode when Sutter first, I don't know why I keep saying stutter, it's Sutter. When Sutter first enters the bar or the saloon, he walks in slow-mo, and to be fair, that one was kind of epic. But then they also have when they're going to capture Bo, they're on like their horses, and the horses are riding slow mo. And then when Bo's exiting the church, they have like these doves fly out in front of him, and again he walks out very slow mo. And there was just like a lot of slow mo shots just at random places that I just found kind of funny because like in some shots they made sense. In other parts I'm like, why randomly a slow-mo here when you didn't do a slow-mo in a similar situation there? Like when Isabel, Cole, and Prue are riding the horses to find Bo, they're moving in regular speed. Yet when the villains are riding the horses because they were followed to go get Bo, that's when they decide slow-mo. That's the way to do it. It was just funny to me. And I was confused about the timing on some of the slow-mo shots or why they even were in slow motion. So as you can see, there's a lot of things I didn't quite like about the episode, but one shining star of the episode is I like the mention of the rehearsal dinner and the idea of leaving a plate for the mom in spirit, though that also is a bit sappy, but um, I liked that. I liked Cole and Prue's dynamic when they were in the Wild West. And I liked that we got to see those characters interacting because Cole really has been all Phoebe. Like even when he was trying to kill them, Phoebe was his target for seduction. So he had conversations with like the other sisters, but very rarely, and he mostly was with Phoebe only. And so this was an opportunity where we got to see him with Prue, one of the other sisters that isn't Phoebe, and also him trying to prove himself in a way about being good and her kind of calling out, if you want to be good, your first thought shouldn't be killing somebody. If you want to be good, you need to be willing to sometimes sacrifice people. So, for example, when Bo realizes what has caused the time loop, Prue agrees that they need to get the villagers to stand up, which means they need to allow Bo to be captured. And if the villagers don't stand up, potentially killed, even if it means Phoebe will end up dying. And Cole, of course, wasn't down for that. But that's another place where Prue points out that, like, if he wants to be good, sometimes you have to make sacrifices for the good of the many and try it. And then they just have this kind of fun little frenemy banter going on throughout most of it as well, with regards to, like the clothing that they pick, with regards to in the bar, because that's a different time period, them talking to Cole, but not necessarily talking to Prue. And I just felt like their interactions were really fun. And they had a really good dynamic within the episode, which saved it, which is why I ended up giving it a 4 out of 10 ranking. And that brings our season 3 rankings so far on the personal ranking side to in first place, Once Upon a Time, We All Scream for Ice Cream, All Hallowell's Eve, Bride and Gloom, Magic Hour, Blinded by the White Lighter, The Honeymoon's Over, Sleuthing with the Enemy, Primrose Empath, Sight Unseen, Power Outage. This episode came in 12th, The Good, the Bad, and The Cursed. And then 13th, Wrestling with Demons, and in last place was Coyote Piper. And that brings us to our final segment, which is our series ranking so far. And on our mostly objective ranking, Season 2 is currently in first place with 75%. In second, Season 1 with 73.18%. And then Season 3 still pending, but has so far gathered a score of 109 out of 220. Then on the personal side, we have Season 1 in first with 71.50%, Season 2 with 56.82%, and then Season 3 has currently earned 103 out of 220 points. And with that, we have now rewatched and ranked Charmed Season 3, Episode 14, The Good, the Bad, and the Cursed. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.